Hello, folks, and welcome to Osquery Office Hours. It is towards the end of November. The leaves are mostly colors here in Boston, and I hope it's a nice fall wherever you all are. First section, announcements. Just to recap, we did make 514 stable a while ago, maybe during the last meeting, and I don't think I have any other announcements. Any of you have anything you want to say?
Nope.
Wonderful.
Yeah, nothing else.
Okay. Any questions, issues, PRs, anything people want to discuss that maybe doesn't bubble up into a meeting item or didn't bubble up into an agenda item? Okay. Agenda section. I only have one thing going on, and I don't know if we decided if we should talk about it at this hours. And anyone want to vote either way on that?
I mean, if you're
I think it. I think we should let all the parties address the report before we talk about it here, right? It's like make sure that they've had a chance to take action, and then we can get their input because none of us are responsible for fixing this at the moment. So
Great. Well, table it. Anyone want to talk about anything else?
I missed the I missed the previous meeting where I know that EPF was briefly mentioned. The reason that the experimental branch is not merged yet, or rather, it's not been moved to outside of experimental function, is mostly that it's not really feature complete, and it probably doesn't work really well on the latest kernels because things have changed, and the codegen is probably broken. I have not debugged this yet, but that is the reason it's not complete.
Is it an improvement over what we have right now?
I'd say that the new implementation, when it works, is better, like a lot better. Like the current one that we have right now cannot even compare. It was built in a time and place when we had several more constraints in terms of things that we could use. And so, yeah, if you were to compare the two implementations, you would see that the latest one is a lot more easier on resources and both on CPU usage and on memory usage. So yeah, it was originally intended to replace what we had, but it was put into the experimental side of things because it requires a minimum kernel version. But as it is now unmaintained for a time being, it's both not compatible with the old versions of the kernels. I think that the minimum version we are supporting of Linux is CentOS 7 because we dropped 6. So it will certainly not work there. Last time I tried it, it was working fine on kernels 5.20, I think, something. which was maybe around Ubuntu 20 something or 21 something. But as some things have been changed in the kernel with the very latest versions, it is also not compatible with the most up-to-date distributions. So,
What do you think the next steps for it are?
so we, as far as I remember, we have to fix we of course have to debug and fix the codegen. We are still doing runtime code generation, and the reason for that is that in my roadmap, let's say, it's not official, but that is something that I would have liked to do. I wanted to add support for loading BPF scripts at runtime and instantiate tables. And that, of course, requires runtime code generation, unless we want to depend on a command line tool like Clang on disk. And so we are subject to changes in the kernel that we have to stay up to date with once in a while. It's not really common, but it did happen. So here we are. So we'd have to fix the codegen, of course, and then bring that to feature parity with the existing BPF tables. And that means adding support for network events, adding support for correctly picking up all the fields that we have. And I know that there are some fixes that I remember that it was the C group was not working as intended, but in the final version, we would have been able to specifically pinpoint which containerization technology was used, like Docker or Podman, and also show the instance identifier. What else? I don't think we are getting things like binary pairs or working directories. And yeah, well, essentially, it's not really feature complete. It is supposed to be a demo.
And you mentioned it's unmaintained, which probably means that it's not where your attention is right now. So I kind of wonder if that's just how it's going to stay until it changes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we had a proposal from the Trilobit side to cover it, but it didn't pan out. And this was mostly just a spare time project that I worked on. And lately I'm a little bit too busy for personal projects. So sadly, it is in that state. Yeah, possible alternative implementations would be
the person who was asking, are they in a position to fund development? If there's a well-defined list of to-dos, it sounds like it's almost in a proposable state.
We did have a roadmap of things to do, but as things broke down a little bit with the latest kernel changes, it probably needs to be updated. Then again, as was mentioning, a possible alternative is if we don't care at all about loading BPF scripts in the future, it could be rewritten in a different way, like using Core, decompile once and run everywhere infrastructure with libbpf. which is definitely more accessible. Like right now, this specific experimental feature is built upon Clang and LLVM, which is nice. I mean, there are things you can do with this that you can't in other ways. You can access private symbols, and you can trace deeper into the kernel to obtain things that you would not with like BCC when you are forced to parse the installed kernel headers. And we also have no dependencies on the system.
Mhm. I don't have anything to say, really. This isn't a feature I have much knowledge around, so
Yeah, I also don't think, I haven't seen many users requesting for it. So I think that is also another thing that contributed to this.
I think so. I know that there's a small number of users that really want kind of better audit support across all the platforms, but they always seem to be kind of small and around the edge of things. You know, I don't think we finished really moving macOS from OpenBSM to the ES frameworks.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Right, you know, Linux, there's the BPF implementation, and then the better one that's still an experimental. And I just don't have a good sense of how important it is to our user base versus any of the other things.
The same situation with Windows and ETW. It seems like it would be the right way to go, but maybe it's not mature.
My guess is that people are not using Osquery that much for eventing, or at least process auditing.
I mean, I feel like it ties into some of the sort of high volume conversations we've had in the past, right? Osquery isn't really a good fit for high volume log shipping.
Yeah.
You know, Scanta is under new management. Maybe there is potential for proof support for that if it's doing process event stuff on macOS. And you know, that's like, well, I don't know, more maintained than maybe the process eventing support within Osquery. We had an extension at TrailBits once, and it coordinated with Santa. I don't know if you would do it differently or not in Cord, but you know, thinking like all the things in Osquery that need maintenance, some of them could be candidates for outsourcing. You know, like, hey, we know we don't do this really. Let's see what does do this and make sure we can ingest its output.
Does do we have an extension model that supports events?
We do not. Well, we ended up implementing our own PubSub into the extension framework that we used in the past in C++.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, I'm finding myself just sending things to the logger directly through Thrift. And if you remember,
I remember
I had a
PR.
problem.
Yeah.
Yes, I had a problem with this. I don't remember what it was, but we fixed it, and now yes, it seems to be working a lot better. Not going through the table and the SQLite stuff, and just sending stuff to the logger.
Yeah. I don't know, Mike, to answer your other question, I'm not sure that there's. So if you think about something like macOS process monitoring in the ES frameworks, I don't know if there's a good or it's all very confusing to me, right? I'm not sure what tools are out there that would be good things to integrate with Osquery, because I think a lot of the ways that integration would go would end up being very performance impacting. So to have like a performant implementation, you'd really need a pretty high level developer task. And at that point, you may as well just implement ES directly.
Yeah. Well, in the case of the ES stuff on macOS, I think Osquery has a better implementation than like the equivalent in Windows ETW. I'm not calling out Windows ETW specifically. I don't haven't looked at our features there for a while, but I just feel like maybe that wasn't the maturity level of like a competing product. But the competing products, they all do things that Osquery wouldn't, loading drivers or shims or whatever.
Well, the thing I've said in the past is that if you're looking for sort of high volume log shipping, you should be looking at something like the Elastic Beats tools, or one of the other things kind of designed for that use case. So I still don't really understand use cases where you would want to put Osquery in the middle of a high volume log stream, right? If like one thing produces it that isn't Osquery and then you're sending it somewhere else, like what's Osquery getting for you?
In my
Yeah.
small experience, they really love the experience they get with Collide or Fleet, and they do not want to introduce additional things into the mix. What I've seen is that we actually had two problems. One was the huge overhead with the publisher and table side of things, with all the CPU and memory usage there to keep track of everything. And then we had the overhead with all the SQLite related management stuff. So in ingesting the rows, then querying them, and then putting them into the database, and then sending them. As we fixed those things by just throwing things at the log aggregator, I can see a much better experience. Then again, I've also seen people that wants to like trace pretty much everything, like every clone, every fork with even threads.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a huge problem. Yes, that is not great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess it depends on like. I'd normally prefer to have detection locally, so that it is true that you're going to trace a lot of stuff, but you're not going to send everything outside. But there are people that do want to just log everything and have a huge log of every machine they own. So
yeah. Well, TBD, I guess. Keep doing nothing.
Well, the person that originally prompted this conversation, they asked in where? Slack?
I don't remember.
I felt like it was a word of mouth thing. Like somebody was asking about it, and then that's how I heard about that. So I don't know who was asking or where. I would like them to get their answer, but the answer is maybe, just like it's not ready. It's unfunded future work still.
Wait, if this is BPF, Zach has asked. I'm not sure.
He was asking on behalf of, I guess, a
Oh, I
customer.
see. Mhm.
I just don't know who. So I guess since Zach isn't here, maybe he can catch up on the notes.
Yeah.
Oh, just ask him in Slack. Yeah. Are there other things people want to talk about? Because if not, I could end our recording.
I think we expected these to be short since they're close to the holiday rush.
We've been running at about half an hour anyhow. So, okay. I'm going to end our recording and we can discuss our undiscussed issue.
All right.